Odell Beckham Jr. is becoming an increasingly big problem for the New York Giants, and he is not necessarily backing it up by his play on the field like he has in the past few seasons. So I'm going to get into a few elements right off the bat. The Giants lost to the Vikings, by the way, last night, 24-10.
Vikings are good, man.
The Vikings are very, very good, and their defense is top 3 in the league, arguably right behind the Broncos as the second best defense in the league. And it's just showing that with Sam Bradford there, it's quite possible through the first 4 games of the season, the best team in the NFC is the Minnesota Vikings. I don't even know why I'm smirking saying that. Just you wouldn't think based on how.
Well, basically, when Teddy Bridgewater goes down early on in the season, like before the season even starts, you're like, how are they going to bounce back?
Adrian Peterson, they lost their weapons, but again, it just proves a narrative that we've known for a long time. It's exactly it. A great top 3 defense in the NFL, damn right can win you a Super Bowl. It did last year.
Yes, sir.
The Denver Broncos. So here's what Eli Manning had to say like immediately after the game, and we'll get into some of the game elements too in just a second. He's got to play smart. He can't afford to do anything they will call. He's kind of brought that upon himself, so he's got to realize that, no doubt, can't afford the penalties. It's one thing when you let the emotions get a hold of you. It's another thing when you start getting penalized for them. Now, I understand that it was probably not the most fair taunting call on the sideline. However, you see it happen. He gets a little bit selfish, maybe a lot selfish, when Eli doesn't throw the ball to him. And I'm going to get into like the back end of this clip about how the Giants' game plan is just atrocious when it comes to even using these wide receivers and why Eli Manning is missing Odell Beckham Jr. open in the first place. But those aren't excuses, because even in the past games so far this season, where Odell Beckham Jr. has gotten his targets, gotten his reception yards, has not found the end zone yet, he still acts like a child. This is going back not just to last week, it goes back to last year and the year before. He's been a child the whole time, but it's just when you score touchdowns, it's a little bit different.
But this is the thing, Jay, is that, again, right, we're looking at Odell Beckham Jr., but why is Eli Manning validating the already consensus that's gone around that Odell Beckham Jr. has got a problem, right? We know there's a problem, but everyone outside of the New York Giants can have a problem. But why is he validating that in an inner, like it's almost like an inner squad conflict? And this is what happens is when you have such a media frenzy around players and they want to get answers all the time, players in the NFL, more than any sport in the world, will openly answer questions and kind of validate the divide that is there. Like, even if someone is going nuts on my team and is just completely disregarding our team's emotions at the time,
just say no comment.
Just say, no, not even no comment. It's like, well, it's an inner squad problem, we'll fix it, and Odell Beckham will bounce back. But it's almost like in every single time there's an inner squad conflict, we've seen it in the past, people will validate it by being like, yeah, he really needs to get his act together. We can't be penalized like that. Where's the relationship between teammates? Like, if my teammate said that to me, that would only anger me further, even if he said it to the media. And I'm not saying Eli Manning's thrown him right under the bus, but even just admitting that there's a problem further validates the problem.
Yeah, especially in the New York media, it's not a safe place to be just throwing out problems to be, as you're mentioning.
Just be like, oh,
validated.
well, yeah, he's going through a start to the season, but we all know he's talent and we all know he's going to bounce back.
Yeah, so I agree with you there, 100%.
Especially considering Eli's first half. Like someone should say that as well.
Oh my God! But by the way, and I would be the first to blame Eli for the Giants' problems, blame the quarterback for the Giants' problems. This is not an Eli problem. This is entirely a Ben McAdoo problem. And if you look at the play calls, which, by the way, you have, and I can't believe I have to say this out loud because it's so frustrating. I don't think NFL coaching is the most difficult thing in the world, but that's what any fan sitting in a chair is saying on their couch. I understand that too. However, when your game plan revolves around running draw plays when you can't even get them off on a 40-second play clock, when you're not throwing the ball to 3 of the best receivers or the best receiving trio, one of those trios in the league in Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard, and Odell Beckham Jr., and you're trying to get the ball out in 1.2 seconds from snap to pass, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that that's not how Eli is going to work. It's not how he's won in the past. It also doesn't take a genius to figure out that because it seems like this offense that Ben McAdoo is running, right, takes such a short amount of time to get that ball out, you're missing Odell Beckham Jr. wide open over the middle of the field like he was all last week against the Redskins, and you're missing him on one-on-one situations. They threw it downfield, I think, a total of 3 times. It's infuriating to watch any team do this, and not just because I'm a Giants fan. You see it happen across the league. But watching someone milk out the play clock for 40 seconds to call audible after audible after audible to hand it off in a draw play that works 1 out of 7 times, if I'm correct, yesterday. 1 out of 7 of those running plays that Eli changed actually worked, and guess what? 2 of them got called back for holding. So it's infuriating to watch this happen. So I actually understand Odell Beckham Jr.'s frustrations, but you can't let the frustrations get a hold of you. He also had a moment with the media after the game, which I think we can show you. So we'll throw that here for you in post.
You know, to an extent, I definitely felt that since the very first play. It just felt as if there was a bunch of Hawks and they were all, you know, eyeing you, and you know, we knew that was going to be the case, and just trying to find a way for me to keep my composure and, you know, not get the little penalties that are going to hurt the team is, you know, something that was difficult today. But I tried my best to just keep your head in the game and just, you know, stay the course.
The way he's holding himself accountable, it's like, all right, so is the Kardashian effect might actually be happening here. Ever since Khloe Kardashian stuck the booty on him, he's really just went on a downward spiral.
If you touch the booty, everything goes to shit.
Right, so he needs to be held accountable for that. He needs to look at it himself, and he really needs to figure it out. To go back really quick, the play calling is atrocious at the moment, from what I can understand, in the Giants. But is there some sort of accountability on a quarterback that when you understand these things aren't going on, to use your better judgment and your ability that he has? I mean, this is a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls, right? You understand he has ability. His throwing ability looks off. He was thrown at the turf several times. He was thrown it out of bounds rather than taking hits. And I think that, again, you're a quarterback, you don't want to get hit, but it looked like he was fearing for his life at times rather than trying to run a risk.
I think it was a combination. It did look a little bit like fear. It also looked like just complete miscommunication between Ben McAdoo's game plan, Eli Manning, his offensive line, and the receivers. Because there was the interception he threw, which of course it's a guarantee. You can have one bad Eli interception per primetime game. That was complete miscommunication. Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning were on different pages. It was a different route. So when he threw it, it looked like there was no one there because no one was supposed to be there. Yeah. And we're not sure if that was on Odell Beckham Jr., Eli, or Ben McAdoo. But again, this offense that has now been, I think it's the 3rd year that Ben McAdoo's been running this system because he was the offensive coordinator before he became the head coach. It's not working. And there's no validation to it having worked in the past 2 years anyway. So Deadspin is great at putting together their column on Thursdays or Fridays. It's called Drew McGarry's Dick Joke Jamboree, right? And at the bottom, there's a thing that says, fire this asshole, and there's usually about 10 coaches. Ben McAdoo should be at the top, and make Steve Spagnuolo the head coach. Should have done that years ago anyway. We have some tweets because Odell Beckham Jr., no better place to go and be cryptic than social media, right, Francis? Don't you love cryptic tweets? So this one got deleted, but beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It's a quote from a poem. Your age doesn't define your maturity, your grades don't define your intellect, and rumors don't define who you are. That all might be true, however, you're acting immature. Regardless of your age, and then this goes back to earlier in the week, they will always talk. Stay away from they. I guess we might be the they in this situation.
Yeah, he's not putting forward the message that he's handling the media well. It's an early start it's early on in the season, right? So I'm not going to count all those eggs before they've hatched.
The Eagles are running away with the division, and so are the Cowboys.
I think that, again, there's a combination that has to be taken into account. We understand that he's letting things get in his head. I think that he's upset with the way plays are being called. I think that he's not feeling that they're using him enough. He's a selfish receiver, the way that he wants to consistently be on the play. But at the same time, some of the best receivers we see are selfish receivers because they want to prove that they're consistently the best. If Antonio Brown was to suddenly not be used in the way that Odell Beckham Jr. has been used and be left wide open, consistently yelling, I'm here, use me, I'm one of the best wide receivers in the league, maybe you would see Antonio Brown start to get a little upset. So I think that it is a combination of both. But that does not excuse losing a fight to a kicking net. You should never lose a fight to a kicking net. And it doesn't excuse him. There's no doubt that he's seen the wrath that the media has just rained over everyone. They've shown that Odell Beckham and they've painted him in the childish light. So he's obviously understood that from last week with his back and forth with Josh Norman and then his crying after kicking the net. So you really need to have some sort of man management. Look at yourself, look at those around you and think to yourself, what is this doing to my team? What is this? Because that's what I'm here for. That's what I've signed the contract, because I'm not doing anything complaining. My team is suffering. They're not getting the best out of me, and I'm not getting the best out of them. So even if things aren't going to plan, we fix it off the field. We fix it in the dressing room. We fix it on the training ground. We don't fix it by yelling and screaming on the sideline and looking to complain to the referees and complaining to everyone else. And we don't fix it the way Eli Manning's doing either, in admitting that there's a problem. There's something so special about teams that are able to understand those problems and fix them off the field when the cameras are away. That's where you really need to bind together as a team.
Yeah, I think what you're really getting to is the locker room chemistry is a very important part of winning ways, and teams that are close together in the locker room, that have at least played together for a long enough time, you usually see that on the field. And that's, again, falls back on communication. Probably the single most important thing the Giants need to fix going into next week is their communication issues, because they're going up against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And while the Packers don't have a great defense, they do have to worry about Aaron Rodgers.
The last thing I think NFL players,
the last thing
I think NFL players, you'll probably agree, is they're a unique specimen, because they literally wear their heart on their sleeve to the point that their best asset is their emotion, and their worst asset is their emotion.
If they channel it correctly,
if they channel it correctly,
into 300 yards and 12 catches like Julio Jones.
Exactly. If you're aggressive and you've got so much testosterone, you're so amped up, you channel that in the right way, you're not going to be caught. Like Julio Jones, who just looked like he had a jetpack on his back and who's dominating. Or it gets the better of you and you're kicking a net and you're arguing with your teammates, or you're getting involved in off-the-ball antics. Like, these are things that make NFL players great and make them fall by the wayside. So
I think that's called speaking of the poetry and like the medieval literature, a double-edged sword.
You don't want to let the double-edged sword cut you.
Below, don't let it cut you. The Giants 2-2. What do you think about the NFC East division? Are the Giants out of it because they can't get their shite together? Or can they pull together and pick up a big win next week in Green Bay? Odell Beckham Jr., all the good stuff. We'll see you next time.